Hello and good day, eh? Welcome to the Super Good Camping Podcast. My name is Pamela.
I'm Tim.
We are from supergoodcamping.com. We are here because we're on a mission to inspire other families to enjoy camping adventures such as we have with our kids. Today, our guests are the hosts of a fantastic adventure podcast. Both have grown up in various areas of Canada that are quite outdoor friendly and usually with plenty of accessible water for their favorite pursuits. Speaking of which, most of their podcast topics revolve around, weirdly, paddling. Things like canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboards, conservation of rivers and watersheds, fishing, and the like. They also have guests on occasion talk about winter camping because, well, sometimes the water here in Ontario is a little bit too firm to paddle on. Please welcome Sean Rowley and Derek Specht from Paddling Adventures Radio.
How are you?
Hello.
Welcome. Nice.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks for having us. We've listened to a few of your podcasts and trying to follow a little bit up on you, so we know a little bit about you guys. I think Sean's been listening to more than I have, but thank you for having us on your podcast. We appreciate that.
Absolutely, we're thrilled to have you on. It's you guys do a different thing from us, but we're all sort of, it's about the outdoor community and learning people, or learning for us and teaching other people things. So we're all doing the same thing. It's awesome.
Exactly
what it's all about.
You guys are at some insane number. Like we're taping this in late January 2023. You guys are like 360 something episodes. Yes.
362.
Oh my God.
Yeah. February 17th is our 7-year anniversary.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
362 episodes. So how often do you guys publish?
Every week.
Every Thursday morning we put out a new episode. Way back in the day, it used to be Wednesdays, because we actually started an online radio station. And when it folded, we just continued on as a podcast and changed it to Thursday mornings. So, yeah, 7 years worth of seeing Derek's face every week, and vice versa for him.
Poor Derek.
I think there's only 1 week where we haven't recorded or put up a recording, and we did a fill show for that one. But we've only missed 1 week in the whole time.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was just very slowly doing the math in my head, going, wait a minute, how do you guys get out and do anything longer than 7 days?
Yeah, well, we have to plan.
We record ahead. We plan ahead. So if I'm usually, what we have to do, everything is centered around Sean because he has all the equipment. So I would go in and we might record ahead an episode or two if I'm going away on a vacation, and if he's going away on vacation, we also record ahead, but then he times his upload or his posting to a different date when he's away.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So it doesn't get in the way of doing the things that you all want to do.
No,
so that's
exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
No,
and Sean also does get guest hosts too. Like if I'm away and we say, hey, get a guest host, I'm not going to record ahead. So then he'll have, there's a few people we typically have on, and so they replace me. But Sean has been in every single one, and I think I've been in 95% of them.
So how do you guys know each other?
How did we know each other? So yeah, we met each other online back in the day when they had Algonquin Adventures forum. Yeah. You go on is all just type in your questions and
don't
all
say
that.
We met online. That's a weird way to say
it. That's my brain went there and I thought, don't say it, Tim. Don't.
So I met him online. He was this guy. Asked me if I wanted to go camping. Can we make it sound worse?
Is it plenty of fish, plenty of fishing? No, wait, what?
It was a paddling site.
Tinder is something about camping?
Yes.
So we, after a while, there was the Algonquin Backcountry Recreationalist group started up, and we both became members of that. And from there, a friendship just took off.
Awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, so originally there was a meetup. Algonquin Adventures had an event, and we sort of knew of each other. Just transitionally, I knew of him, he knew of me. We went to this Algonquin Adventures meetup on what was the lake? whatever lake. It was in Algonquin, and so we met and so the whole group. There's like, I don't know, it had to be like 30 people, and we all got talking about how do we protect the backcountry of Algonquin Park, and that's when we came up with the idea of creating a group that would work with the MNR and work with Algonquin Park and just to help improve the backcountry and protect the backcountry. So we created the group, the Algonquin Backcountry Recreationalists, and so we were two of the members of the group. I think there was 5 in total, and and that's where we routinely met up doing for meetings and so on, and yeah, then it progressed from there.
That's excellent.
That's cool.
So glad to hear that you guys are helping out.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it was important to protect. Like we all see, and what we see now is like magnified so much just because of COVID and stuff. All the backcountry damage, and there's so many people interested in backcountry. It's been overrun, and so it doesn't matter what park you go to, or even Crown Land nowadays. And so, but back then we could see the effect of misuse of the backcountry, and so it just became a thing where, hey, we can make a difference, and we ended up did make a difference. Like we were accepted by the MNR, we were accepted by the management of Algonquin Park, and so we would meet routinely with them, and so we would we would look at their logging maps and the schedules over the next 5 years, and we'd make sure that they were following their own rules, basically, right?
Yeah.
And it progressed from there. It's like just our love of the backcountry, and if Sean can tell the part about how we got together for this podcast, he's good at telling that part. But yeah, it just progressed. It when you love something, you want to protect it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what made us different than a lot of these hardcore conservation groups is that we didn't come out and demand anything. We just said, hey, you know what, according to your rules, you guys got to do this, you got to do this, and here's something you could think about when you're doing your next logging review, or where you're going to put a portage or a road. We didn't demand they do anything. We just threw the information that they may have missed out there, and they were so much more receptive to that, and it really worked. But yeah, after ABR, I actually did a call-in with Angelo Viola on the Outdoor Journal, on real radio, as I call it.
Yes. Yeah.
And talking about the ABR and stuff like that. And then a while later, his brother Reno was starting up the online radio program, and wanted to know who was the guy that was on the show. It was me, and him and I met. And he said, we're looking at more Canadian content and looking at a canoeing show for the radio. And I said, well, canoeing is going to get pretty boring after a while if it's just canoeing. So I said, why don't we just do all paddling? So yeah, so in 2016 we launched our first episode online, and we started we always joke our moms listened. But now, what I say yesterday, we were up to 47,000 downloads a month.
Yeah, approximately 15,000 a week for each episode. And yeah, so it's a lot of people are listening. Yeah. And we get calls from and messages from people like all around the world, which is pretty cool, and that'll never ever get old. Meeting up with people, and like you say, you go to the Toronto Outdoor Adventure Show, or we go to the Quiet Adventure Symposium, go to Canoecopia, and people call you out and go, hey, you're Sean, you're Derek, I love your thing. We've been recognized on portages, and we're going on hikes and stuff, and somebody, hey, I love your podcast. And it's just like, yeah, there's people out there listening to it, and we enjoy doing it. It's a passion of ours, getting out on the water. We've learned quite a lot over the last 7 years, and we've questioned at times whether we should, does it run its course and stuff like that. And we're just like, what, we're enjoying doing it. Let's just keep doing it. Yeah, we're not making money at it. We don't have any sponsors. We don't have any inflow of cash. It's a hobby. I usually compare it to people when they ask about it, I say, well, it's like my poker night. Some people go play darts, some people go play pool, some people go get together once a week and play poker, and we get together and record a podcast once a week.
That's valid. And I'm glad you guys do. Question: How did 7 years, and you're doing 15,000 an episode, roughly downloads,
Roughly, yeah.
in that realm? So I have to assume in the early days it was a much smaller number. How did it grow? Did it do it organically? Did you guys flog the heck out of something? How did you make it be the juggernaut that it is?
Magic.
I wouldn't call it
no.
a juggernaut, but it's
A juggernaut. Yeah, I'm gonna write that one down.
Put it on your sales.
Yeah, we're gonna put that. Yeah. Sean and Derek, hosts of a Juggernaut podcast. No, it just grew gradually. Like we'd get somebody on and they would put it out there, and more people would come on, or. Like we just, this week's show, which actually just launched today, we talk about Douro kayak expedition. It's this 10-day trip across Portugal. So you tag them, and then all of a sudden they share it, and everybody that they like, we've got about 7 or 8 new followers today.
Oh, cool.
Right. So, and that's just so, and over time, it just, they told 2 friends, they told 2 friends, they told 2 friends, and it plateaus once in a while. But then all of a sudden, it just goes up again. So yeah, it's all word of mouth, just social media, just being consistent. Trying to have good quality audio and stuff like that. And those are the 2 big things everybody says when you're doing the podcast: is you got to have the audio, and you've got to be consistent. And I like to think we are.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we're debating. I think it's going to happen. We have we're in the enviable position of having a wealth of content right now. We're gonna have to switch to weekly, just because otherwise we're recording people that won't see the light of day until this time next year. So
right.
Yeah.
But I don't. We love doing it. I can't. She's crazy busy, like all the time. I don't know. I can't imagine how we would do it. We could do weekly for 8 months, and then slide, back a little bit. Excuse me. Because things seem to sort of slow down a little bit in the winter anyhow, at least until you hit January and people go, oh, we have to start planning things. Maybe we should catch up. Right. So that's there. We're not interviewing you. We're talking about us.
So yeah. So the I think what gave us the consistency of weekly was, for a fair amount of time, right at the first, we made a commitment with this online radio show, this online radio station. And so we had committed to them to have 1 show a week that we would upload to them, and they would post it. So it was we had to do it. So we had to fill our time slot. And so we got into the habit of doing it every week. And then when that online radio station folded, we just, I guess we're going to do it as a podcast, but we'd already been in the habit of doing it once a week anyways. And so it just flowed, it just continued. And I would say, like, early on, when I would meet up with Sean and I'd go to his house where we have a recording studio, we would oftentimes early on, we would sometimes 3 times a week I'd have to go there, because it's like we're struggling, because we had to have 52 minutes, because they had commercials that they put in the radio station. So when we had to make that time, that 52-minute time, and it's like, we only have 20 minutes, and we'd have a topic. It's like, we just killed the topic in 7 minutes. What do we do? Right. So some weeks we'd be there for like 3 nights a week trying to come up with topics and record. But now we just kind of, it's become, we've become comfortable in our own skin. It took a while for me to be comfortable just hearing my own voice on a recording, right? And I just, I sound like that. Right. So it after time, we became very comfortable. Now we just, like, it's very rare that we would I don't think we've recorded twice in 1 week, except to do an extra episode in like 18 months, 2 years.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah, we have the gift of gab. It's like, I can't believe we talked about that topic for 40 minutes.
Well, yeah, you'll get topics. You say, oh, this is happening down in Maine, and this is happening over in India, and oh, Australia's got this thing happening down there. Oh, and if you hear about that, okay, that should cover about 40 minutes. An hour and 20 minutes later,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh man, we got to stop this.
Yes, well, yeah, I know, right? Because I've always felt that anything over an hour, you're kind of pushing people off to the fringes. A lot of people, like myself, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts as it's more than an hour. Like there's a Mike Rowe podcast that I often listen to, but when he gets long-winded, I just like, sorry, Mike, I'm not listening to it. It's just too long. It's an hour and 20 minutes, 2 hours long, right? So we try to keep it limited so it doesn't go too long. But sometimes when like you get like Kevin Callan on, it's like, okay, we have 4 hours of tape.
Yeah, I was gonna
What
say.
are we gonna do with this?
Yeah.
So I can say from experience, because the Zoom thing is 40 minutes, trying to jam him into that 40 minutes.
Oh.
Mackerel, man. We just pounded against the wall at the end of it. It was just
We went up to his place with all our gear, because that's the thing about this is we can pack it all down and take it places, which is nice. That's why when we go to Quiet Adventure Symposium down in Michigan, we get a booth and we record in our booth.
Oh, cool.
Right. Which is a benefit, because then the people we record down there, they're our next 2 episodes. So for the next 2 weeks, I don't need to see Derek's face, right? And he doesn't need to see mine.
And
But-
it's a lot of fun going to these adventure shows and stuff and recording. And so we set up our banner, our sign, and people walk by. It's like, oh, what's this? And then we're recording somebody. They see the microphones, the headphones, and so we look a lot more professional than we are.
It's all about the accessories, right?
Yes.
Blingy lit up headphones.
Yes.
So I'd love to circle back. Sean, you mentioned about this idea. This is going on in Australia. So where do you get your ideas from? Just what forums, reading things?
Yeah, you know what? Like I'll be seeing something online, and I mean, there's always the news stuff, right? Things that are happening, and unfortunately, a lot of this stuff, the amount of stuff that we have to throw away, we could be quite the morbid paddling show if we included all the accidents, the drownings, the unsafe things over the last couple of years. And especially when COVID hit, Derek and I, we totally switched so that we could keep going through COVID, right? We still recorded every single week through COVID, but there was a lot of, it was hard to get, because no one was going out and doing anything. So it was hard to get. So you're just Googling different things and you're thinking, oh man, I'd like to go there. So Mexico, what paddling is in Mexico? And then when you get in Google and you start following something, you go down that rabbit hole, the things that you find, I'm following this thing about the 13 US bucket list places. And then there's this little thing up the side, a little ad saying, something about kayaking across 10 days in Portugal.
Right.
Oh, well, what's that? So you click on that, right? And I mean, I'm looking at something kayaking in BC. Next thing you know, there's 13 places in the US and Portugal. So it's from all different places, just Googling stuff, or you see a picture on Instagram when you're scrolling through the social media and, oh, what's that sort of thing, right? And that just gets you different ideas about, like we've talked about the top, I think it was 5 places we'd like to go canoeing if money were no option, plane tickets were no option. What 5 places would you go in North and South America? And that was an episode we did, right? So yeah, it's just wherever, I see something cool, and we just follow, and that's how we ended up doing our 5 Great Lakes in a day this year. It was, oh, that looks pretty. I bet you could do that. I mean, that started a few years ago with Kevin Callan. I was telling him about it, and unfortunately he couldn't go with us this year, and so Derek and I went and did it, and it was like, that is pretty much exactly how I thought it would go.
Yeah.
So yeah, wherever.
I read about the Great Lakes, doing all the Great Lakes in one day, and I went, that's crazy. You can't do that. And then it was like, oh, they did.
Au contraire.
Mackerel. That's a whack of work, but that's awesome.
You know what? Like I mean, unfortunately right now you got to drive and you need the money for gas, right? If money were no option and gas were no option, or like no problem, the places that we could go, I love to drive, absolutely love to drive. So that five Great Lakes in a day, you know, and having Derek sitting beside me, we're just chatting about stuff. I don't think we've ever really spent that much time together chatting about things other than paddling.
Yeah,
right?
and I'll never do it again.
Yes, you will. You know, like there's so many places that you could go if money and gas were no option. And I think everybody that paddles would be in the same boat going, all right, throwing that canoe on the roof, that kayak on the roof, that stand-up paddleboard, whatever you're into, and we're off for a 3-day weekend somewhere. It just exploring.
Yeah.
You know, it's so awesome to do stuff like that.
Cool. And what, so that's a very cool experience, period. And I can't, it would never have occurred to me. It's like, no. What other things do you guys like to do? Either do you both like to, obviously you like to do paddling and stuff like that, but what else? I know that you had a wonderful time in Mew Lake just a few weeks ago. So winter camping is a thing for you. What about you, Derek? What things do you, I don't know, get out there and do?
One of the advantages of doing the podcast is it's linked me up with a lot of people to do a lot of different things that I probably wouldn't have done normally. Like back in the day, I used to live out in British Columbia, and we would do kayaking around Vancouver Island and stuff like that. So that was what kind of the outdoor stuff that I started with. But since I've been here, Ontario is very different. Like BC, it's like sandal wearing, granola crunching. It's you're out, you know, you're hiking and climbing and paddling and whatever. And I moved to Ontario. It's like, oh wow, it's like, you know, yeah, pack of smokes, a case of beer, and you go to the cottage. It's like I don't want to do that. So I started doing a lot. That's when I really started canoe tripping. And but from this podcast, it's like there's a group of guys that that I linked up with that so we've done a lot of winter hiking. But the bunch of the boys just went last week and they're going this weekend. But I've lost conditioning since COVID, right? So I didn't go with them. But I've been doing a lot of that, like going through the White Mountains and the Adirondacks, and we did the Presidential Traverse, where you do all the different presidential mountains through the like Mount Washington and so on, right? And so we did that all in winter and snow, right? So it's that's another one of my passions that I like doing. And in March I'm going to be going down to the Adirondacks with the boys and doing some more of that mountaineering, hiking, and stuff like that. So that's one of the other things. Plus, you know, I like camping with my family. Like I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, and me and my wife, we take them camping as much as possible, summer and winter. And so, you know, like I think we're going to end up at like McGregor Provincial Park on Family Day weekend, and we're going to do some winter camping out there. But yeah, it's just, you know, I do a lot of different things, right? I couldn't really capture it all because like I always kind of focus, because of the podcast, I try and focus on the paddling stuff, but I've got a lot of other interests outside of that. Like I do motorcycle trips, I do mountain biking, stuff like that, right? So it's
Nice.
it's a lot of different stuff. It keeps me busy.
So, of your episodes, is there one that's been the most popular, or one that you have favorites of the episodes that you've done?
I don't know, Sean. What do you? There must be some. What you can look on iTunes and see which podcast was downloaded the most. I think there's a
Most,
few
yeah.
that had a lot of interest, and like the Kevin Callans those episodes are usually of interest.
Yeah.
Usually, so when we so if we interview somebody, or if there's an event that we attended and we recorded at the event, stuff like that draws in a lot of interest, and a lot more people will listen to that episode because they are not, they're listening to us, but they're listening to us because the person that they normally follow was on it. Like Jim Baird, his episode was very popular. Kevin Callan's episodes are popular. Like whenever we have, I think we had Kevin Callan on like 5 or 6 times now.
Very first show, our 100th, our 200th, our 250, something like that.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, and anytime, like if we were at the Ontario Backcountry Canoe Symposium, we set up a booth there and record and stuff, so people listen to that. And a lot of people, we get feedback is when they're traveling, if they're going on a canoe trip or something, while they're driving, they'll have some of our podcasts loaded up so they can listen to them while they're driving.
Yeah, captive audience. They're stuck in the car. They might as well listen to us.
Yeah, might as well. I know some people that drive truck across the country down through the States, and they go, yeah, I've got the last 2 weeks of podcasts so I can listen to them and that sort of thing. So anything with Kevin Callan, guests, and any events that we've recorded are pretty much our most popular ones.
Yeah, and that's usually also what gives us a spike in viewership or people who follow us is like we go to the what's the one in Lansing, Michigan? It's
Quiet Adventure Symposium.
Quiet Adventure Symposium. Like usually we get a bump in followers from that, or people that listen, and we also get a bump. Like Jim Baird, when we had him on, we had a bump in people that listen there because they listen to him, and then they want to go and listen to him while we interview him, and so that bumps it up. So it does increase our who listen to us when we do special events and special interviews. So it should be interesting because we want to get Justin Trudeau on. We had unfortunately we kind of timed out. We missed out on getting the Queen on because we wanted to interview her, but sadly she's passed, and so we unfortunately can't do that now. But
and the Pope.
And the Pope, yes, we got to get.
That was the third one. Trudeau, the Queen, and the Pope.
Yeah.
Aim for the sky, man. Aim for the sky.
We figure.
Cool. So
thank you so much to Sean and Derek from Paddling Adventures Radio for joining us this evening and being our special guest. We're so happy to have you guys here. We look forward to talking to you again soon. And that's it for us for today. Please do listen to us. We're planning to be every week or two soon. And reach out to us on all the social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We've got an Instagram account, and our email address is hi@supergoodcamping.com. That's hi@supergoodcamping.com. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.